why don't we start with The Shield and Big Show, Randy Orton, and Sheamus, because that's where WrestleMania started for people who didn't see the pre-show. And for me, this was one of those matches that over-delivered, mostly because the swerve on who was turning on the Big Show and Orton and Sheamus didn't come till after the match, which for me was a pleasant surprise. And I like the fact that the Shield went over and stayed strong. So, Alex, what did you think of it?
It was fine. It was a pro wrestling match. I expected all the guys to be able to deliver on that stage already, so it wasn't like, oh, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins are able to have a good wrestling match. I expected that. It was a fine match, and the swerve of Big Show turning, I didn't really see it as a swerve because he's been a babyface for, what, like 2 weeks now? I mean, it was him going back to where he was, so it was... they're going back to where it was before the match even happened. So it was kind of what was the last month about. So it was okay.
I just felt it was more obvious for Randy Orton to turn because he's been begging to go heel for a while now. And it just seemed to me that Big Show reverting back to being the guy he was before was too obvious. Maybe that's why I thought it was a swerve to actually have him do it.
He acted like a goofball when he walked out too, Randy Orton did. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the thing. I think everyone expected Randy Orton to do it, and Randy Orton could still turn heel in a couple weeks. But it was a WrestleMania opener. It was fine. I don't want to overemphasize the water here. It's fine.
Yeah, and I'm just happy that Jon Moxley won his first ever match at WrestleMania. He got that chance that our poor friend Damian Sandow didn't. So you got to look at the positive in that aspect. But Chris, what did you think?
I think that Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose need to go talk to whoever's doing their spray tans because they look like fucking Oompa Loompas.
The worst spray tan I actually saw tonight was John Cena's because anytime there was a close-up on his armpits, it looked nasty.
Well, I wasn't paying any attention to John Cena's armpits, but these two guys, they were fucking orange.
That's why I couldn't help but notice because he was like ashy white underneath and then orange on his arms. The contrast was too much.
Blech. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this match. I didn't care about this match going in. I didn't care about this match as it was happening. I don't care about this match now.
Okay, well, Nick, how do you feel? Do you care, not care? Where do you stand?
The right ending happened. The Shield got the win because of controversy and people not getting along on the other side. I had predicted that Big Show would leave Randy Orton and Sheamus alone to fend for themselves in the ring, but what he did was fine enough. He was reaching for the tag from Sheamus. Randy Orton took the tag himself, and Big Show was just so upset about that he didn't even help Orton when he was getting pinned. I like the way that happened, that Big Show reestablished his dominant heel in the end of this match.
I think that's fair. Okay, so Kev, what did you have to say about it?
Overall, I was fine with the match. I like the fact that the Shield got the win. One of the things that they talked about on the pre-show was the fact that one of the things that the Shield had going for them was just pure momentum. They worked very fluidly with each other. And you see that in motion in every one of their matches. If one of them even begins to start to stumble, the next one is right there to follow up after to make sure that their momentum keeps going and keeps building, and eventually they've got everybody enough worn down that they can just pick apart one person and completely cream them and dominate them, and that's what happened once again. It was a great match, so I like that. Big Show, I don't see this as a return to a heel because I didn't see that he left being heel in the first place. Just because he's teamed up with the baby faces doesn't mean that makes him a baby face.
Exactly.
In this case,
it was said all along.
In this case, it was purely a fact that Shield decided to target him, and there was some skin in the game here for Big Show. And that was the only reason he was tagging, was just because he was looking for a little retribution. Sure, makes sense to tag up with these guys. I don't have to like them. I don't have to be personally involved with them. We just got something in common right here, ready to go.
I like that JBL kept talking about the fabulous Freebirds throughout the entire. I'm sorry, let me get my mic closer to my face. I like that JBL kept talking about the fabulous Freebirds throughout this whole match. It's kind of unfortunate that that comparison, because I think the Shield is a good group of young talent, but to compare it to the Freebirds, come on, JBL.
All right, Jeff, you haven't weighed in yet, so please, what are your thoughts on the Shield?
I was fine with the match. It served its purpose. Big Show was never a babyface during this whole thing. He was just on the whole, I hate them more than I hate you guys right now. So we're going to work together, get them. Randy was feeling himself too much. He tagged himself in. Big Show's like, you know what? You think you can handle it? You handle it. He couldn't get the job done. The Shield got a win. The Shield move on to the next thing that's on their agenda. The Big Show goes ahead and he does his own thing. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it did what it was supposed to do. The Shield got their big WrestleMania win. The Big Show proved that he still can't stand either one of them. Randy, still the cocky babyface, heel, whatever the hell you want to call him this week. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that sums it up. Then we can move on. They had a John Cena, The Rock promo, first of many that were taking place throughout this show. And then we got Mark Henry versus Ryback. And I wouldn't say it was a great technical match, but once again, I feel like it exceeded what were probably low expectations. Now, in the first match, my low expectations were the Shield weren't going to get to look strong. So that was the exceeding here. What exceeded in this one was that I thought that Ryback was going to get the win and there was no chance in hell for Mark Henry. And the fact that he actually did pick up a win by squashing Ryback like a bug was a pleasant surprise, at least for me. So, Kev, I'll start with you this time.
I figured what was going to happen would be kind of the stereotypical match when you get involved with a guy the size of Mark Henry versus what people would consider either underdog or an up-and-comer, which would be that the up-and-comer, in this case Ryback, would struggle all through the match to try to get the upper hand on the older veteran Mark Henry. Henry would just beat him down, and Ryback's focus would try to be to get him up to get the big finisher in. He'd fail several times, but at the very end, with the last ounce of strength that he would have, he would finally get it accomplished and get the win. Totally did not happen here. I wasn't expecting Henry to pick up the win like he did. But the fact that he did made me very happy. And then Ryback immediately got his revenge. That also made me happy, and it was completely unexpected.
Very well said, Kev. You put it much better than I did. Chris, it sounds like you wanted to chime in.
I did not like the ending of this because, Ryback got Mark Henry up for the shell shock. Great, yay, woohoo. Mark Henry grabs the rope, squishes Ryback, and Ryback he is downed, he is out. But then after the 3 count, he miraculously recovers when Mark Henry comes back to beat up on him some more and hits the shell shock on him. It's like, dude, if you had that kind of freaking energy 30 seconds ago, you wouldn't have just lost the damn match. That made no sense to me.
I think I just have to chalk that one up to wrestling psychology, that you can be down for 3.5 when you're not down for 3. It's that kind of thing where, you might be able to kick out at 3.5, and that he still had the energy, he just didn't have it fast enough.
Well, it was obvious. I mean, from the look on his face when he was standing there afterwards, it was obvious that he was in a lot of pain. I mean, he might have, pulled something. I don't know. But just the immediate jump up and, I'm going to hit the shell shock on you, that bothered me.
Well, did it bother you, Alex, or were you okay with this one?
Absolutely. The match, it reminds me of the Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler match from a few years ago at WrestleMania. They gave him way too much time. All the reports on the house show circuit that they were having a bad match. This match was bad. It could have been 5 minutes, and then ultimately I asked, what was the point of this match at all? Again, just like the first match, I pointed out about how we're kind of neutral back where we started before the show. I feel like the same way with this one. If not, it did both guys damage. Mark Henry got a fluke win over Ryback, and then Ryback turns around and hits him with a shell shock. Who got over? Why did they have the match? They could have put one guy over, whether it be the Ryback or Mark Henry, but they took a third option, which was to get neither guy over, and all it did was waste our collective time, in my opinion.
Okay, Nick, that's strong words from Alex. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm going to agree with the fact that the right guy won, Mark Henry, but I don't like how he won. I mean, him flattening Ryback was fine, but I don't think that should have been the 3 count. I think Mark Henry should have just said, "No, I want to give you more punishment," and I would have rather see Mark Henry hit him with the World's Strongest Slam, then get the 1, 2, 3 right after, like immediately after squashing him. Then he tries to walk. Then he walks away. The referees and the trainers check on Ryback, and then that's when Ryback gets his revenge. I was happy with the whole scenario of Mark Henry winning and Ryback getting revenge. I would have just rather see a stronger finish.
Jeff, what's your take?
My employee won. I'm happy. The match worked. Like, okay, when you have 2 big people in the ring, because you know how every couple years WWE wants to put their 2 big men in the match, and the match is always horrible. This match worked. It worked systematically. Ryback took it to Mark Henry. Mark Henry took it to him. They both had each other on the edge, a way that you don't typically see when they're wrestling an everyday wrestler. The finish worked for me. Him flattening Ryback, because he worked on Ryback's midsection the entire match. So the fact that Ryback picked him up and then crumpled under the pressure just played into that. And the fact that after the match, Mark Henry was about to walk off and people were checking on him, he said, "No, you let him suffer." And when he went for him, Ryback, surprise show of power. Ryback's supposed to be this huge, indestructible person, and for someone like Mark Henry to take him down and pin him cleanly, that just goes to show that even if it was a fluke win, who gives a damn? He pinned Ryback, and not too many people can actually say that they pinned Ryback to the mat 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. And Ryback got his revenge at the end of the match. It works. I don't understand because I heard a lot of people complaining about it, and I didn't understand why they're complaining about it. It worked.
Let's go to Team Hell No versus Dolph Ziggler and Big E Langston. And Chris, I want you to be the first one to give your opinion on this.
I am the tag team champions. I am the tag team champions. I love this match.
Obviously, somebody finally got the hookup from the Quintastic one.
What?
You just got completely excited there and tried to go not.
No, because this was the first match I fucking cared about. I have said all along that I love Team Hell No. I love the interaction. I love the chemistry between Kane and Daniel Bryan. I love the comedic genius that they bring to their interaction. I hate Dolph Ziggler. I hate Big E Langston. I hate AJ. I was very glad that Team Ziggles did not win. I do think that Kane and Daniel Bryan do need to break up and move on to other things. They've had this great tag title run, but this was not the way they needed to break up. So I was excited as all hell that they won.
My favorite thing about this match, before I move on to the next panelist, is that they referenced the Daniel Bryan-Sheamus match. I like the fact that AJ Lee was ushered over to the apron to give Dolph Ziggler a kiss, and he turned around and immediately ate a kick to the head from Daniel Bryan. And he didn't get the 3 count, but he came close. And I thought, great piece of storytelling there. Way to tie the 2 WrestleManias together by having us flash back to that moment. I really enjoyed that part. So, Alex, I'm going to go to you next.
I'll go ahead and say first the utilization of Big E Langston in this match. It was Big E Langston's first World Wrestling Entertainment match, his first match being at WrestleMania, and they utilized him very well. I've not seen a ton of him in NXT, but he didn't really stand out to me as being anything remarkable. But in this match, they utilized him very well. Dolph and Daniel Bryan, of course, they wrestled very hard. And Kane was used well in this match overall as well. Interesting finish. I think some of us may have expected Dolph to go over Dolph and Big E, but they didn't. So it was interesting, and I look forward to see where Team Hell No goes on from here. I'm happy that Daniel Bryan is utilized in this role because where would he fit in the title picture and such? So with him having the tag team titles on, at least he'll continue to be featured.
I'm glad you brought up how Big E was used in this match, Alex, because one more note I'll make before I go on, and I like the dynamic of power versus power in each team, that Kane and Big E ended up against each other whenever the moment arose that they would counter each other's choke slams or big, off the rope moves, whatever they happened to be doing at the time. It made sense for me to see them paired up in that context. Jeff, what did you think?
It was a good match. I mean, like you guys were saying, Big E was used in the proper way. He got to show off his power. He got to show a little bit of what he could do, and it helped ease him into being a part of actual matches. We'll have to see where it goes further on. Personally, Team Hell No needs to drop them belts. I don't care to who. They could drop it to a pillow and a blanket. They just need to lose the belt, split up. Kane can go back to the fiery depths of hell. And Daniel Bryan can either go back to Brie Bella's house or a mountain in some foreign country. I don't care. And go bad people like goats do. I don't care. Just split them up. Heck, y'all could have put the belts on Team Ziggles for like 5 seconds and then have the Usos come out or the Primetime Players come out, pin them, take the belts off, and ride off into the sunset. I don't care. Get the damn belts off of Team Hell No. That's all I want.
I agree with you that Team Hell No's time has come to drop the belts. I just didn't think WrestleMania was the time. So, Kev, what did you think?
Overall, I thought it was a fine match. I've seen Biggie Langston wrestle before. He pretty much lived up to my expectation in this match here. I was just kind of surprised by the pace of this match. I mean, it was just like wham, 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 wham. There was no break. There was no lull in the action. Nobody taking a rest hold. It was just all out, balls to the walls wrestling, and that worked really well for me. No complaints at all. I think the win by Team Hell No was the right one. I'm kind of waiting for them to drop the titles as well, but I'll agree with you. I don't think WrestleMania was the time to do it. I think that would have, especially for Biggie Langston's first match, already being at WrestleMania, I think it was just enough just to expect him to have a competent match.
Well, I think he had more than a competent match, so it seems to me we're all in agreement on that, except I haven't got Nick's 2 cents, so do you agree that it was competent on his part?
Big E, what can I say? I guess he held his own. He wasn't disappointing. He got to show his speed and power, which I guess I'll accept. I'm not going to say, he showed why he's the best of NXT or anything. But, I mean, I wasn't really... Like I said, I had low expectations going into this pay-per-view. I was thoroughly enjoyed by this match. The right team won. Team Hell No, but if it was a more established tag team, like an actual tag team, as if the Primetime Players, I think, yes, then that's when you have Team Hell No drop the belt. But since it was Big E and Dolph, Team Hell No winning was the right move.
Indeed it was. So we will move on from that to next on the show was Make-A-Wish Foundation campaigning for texts to 80088 or 80808, whatever it was. Donate $10 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation for their World Wish Day. And make the most wishes ever in one day. I think that's the gimmick, Chris. Am I right about that?
You are indeed. And I am a big fan of Make-A-Wish. I always have been. I worked for a company for about a year that their big charity project was the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I'm a mother of 2. My daughter has special needs. Fortunately not severe enough that she would ever need the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But this is a great organization, and this is one that the WWE is doing a good job partnering with.
I agree. And we've gotten to see some very special Make-A-Wish presentations going to WrestleManias in the past. At the one I went to in Chicago, they actually had like a breakfast/brunch with a wrestling panel. But before the panel, they brought out Make-A-Wish recipients and honored them by having them be like special guests at the brunch. So to me, when they do stuff like that at WrestleMania, it shows what WWE can do right. When they want to be a class act, they can really put something together like this that makes you proud to be a wrestling fan.
I feel like this is one they don't really beat over your head either. A lot of times when they get involved, they kind of are openly like, look what we're doing. And this one, I feel like they're actually, they actually treat, professionally is not the right word, but I guess they treat it well. We don't get beat over the head with what they do with it.
Yeah, well, speaking of things we've gotten beaten over the head with for the last month, the pronunciation of Fandango. So finally, we actually get a match instead of him coming out whining that nobody can say his name right and leaving. We actually get to see Fandango do something for a change. Thank God it's about fucking time. So, Alex, what did you think?
I assume I'm going to be a minority. I remember when Evan Bourne wrestled Chris Jericho, and everyone thought that Evan Bourne was going to be a big star coming off of it. He had a really good match with Jericho, then he wasn't. So I think a lot of people expected Fandango to go in here and have a good match with Jericho and being a big star coming out of it. Not only did I think that it wasn't a very good match, but Fandango isn't ready for the opportunity, if that was the opportunity that was being presented to him. I didn't like the match. This is the second Chris Jericho match in a row at WrestleMania that I didn't really care for. So I give it it's one of my thumbs down.
Oh, well, I guess the ending I thought was a little too cheap for him to counter and roll up Chris Jericho like that. But at the same time, it almost has to be that way because how else are you going to give a rookie like Fandango a win over a former world champion, intercontinental champion, tag champion, list of accomplishments too long for this podcast, like Chris Jericho? It almost has to be a fluke.
You put the guy over. I mean, that's how you do it. I mean, if you're going to put him over, put him over. Because if you do it halfway, then the guy's not going to get over. And I didn't think the match was good enough to get him over on any merits anyway. So the effectiveness of the match, I didn't think it was very effective. I mean, tomorrow, Monday, where are both guys? Both guys are back where they were, if not a little bit de-elevated. So, I mean, Jericho has the promo, so Jericho will always stay over to a degree. But as far as Fandango, what did it do for him? Absolutely nothing. So that's why I give it a thumbs down. So,
well, I'm getting comments from the chat. Rowdy Rob says, Fandango should have squashed Zack Ryder. I don't know. Maybe that would have been better than the Chris Jericho match. Matador says, he's unproven and annoying. Ciara says, I don't see the issue with him debuting at Mania. So, mixed opinions from the chat room. Kev, what's your opinion?
This match was way better than it had any right to be. I honestly was not expecting much of a match at all. I wasn't particularly happy, on one hand, that this match was on WrestleMania. On the other hand, I'm not going to begrudge anybody who gets their first shot at a WrestleMania. Overall, the match I thought was fine. So a lot of people complained that this match sucked. There wasn't a lot of wrestling, and I'll agree there was not a lot of wrestling involved in this. But I don't think that speaks badly to Johnny Curtis as an individual or as a wrestler. I've seen him wrestle for the last couple of years. He's a fairly solid, competent wrestler. I think they just maybe went a little too conservative in this match to make sure that they didn't overexpose him, being that it was his first time on a big stage just like this, and basically his wrestling debut, more or less. So, overall, I thought the match was fine. I think I would have been happier if this was on the pre-show and Wade Barrett versus Miz was on the show instead, but it is what it is, and it wasn't a stinker of a match to me, and I'm okay with it.
Before I go to the next panelist, I'm going to reference something that happened to me on Facebook earlier today. One of the comments that I made in the Angry Marks news update was reposted, and I was tagged in it on my wall. It was a good friend of mine, and I didn't mind him doing that. But somebody that was a friend of his who didn't know me started complaining about the fact in my commentary in the news that I said that Johnny Curtis was barely passable as a wrestler. And he took exception to that. Apparently, I ran into the world's biggest Johnny Curtis / Fandango fan, and he started complaining about smart marks and the internet and the IWC and going on this whole rant. I'm like, dude, did you not get the point of this column? The website is called AngryMarks.com. We're supposed to be angry. We're supposed to make snarky comments about Fandango because we haven't even seen the damn guy wrestle on television. He's had a couple of matches as Johnny Curtis before that I thought were no good. I've never seen anything about the guy that impressed me. If you don't like our opinion, too bad. It's called Angry Marks, you fucking mark. And with that, I'm going to Chris.
The biggest thing that I got out of this match is that Fandango is apparently a fan of the Raw reaction, because on his wrist tape, he had Kevin written in big red letters, obviously so that our own Killa Kev would see it and know that he was a fan.
Apparently.
You know, I was predicting on the pre-show that, you know, Fandango would come out and say, hey, you still can't pronounce my name, fuck you, I'm not wrestling. And honestly, I think that would have been a more entertaining occurrence than this match. I did not enjoy this match at all. This was 9 minutes of my life that I will never have back. And he didn't wrestle. He punched, he kicked, he did leg drops. He didn't wrestle. I was not impressed at all.
And that was the crux of my argument on Facebook, is that Johnny Curtis, to me, is like a wrestling robot. You can take him to a wrestling school and you can teach him to do moves, and he can imitate those moves in a robotic fashion. But wrestling is so much more than being out there and mechanically executing moves. You have to be able to tell a story. It has to flow. You have to be able to impress the crowd with your charisma and make them react to you. And I don't feel like Johnny Curtis / Fandango really gave Chris Jericho much of anything. Jericho got as much out of him as he was going to be able to. Jeff,
real quick, Stevie,
go ahead, Alex.
I just want to say, is that something controversial to say? Because obviously the company didn't see anything in him the first time because they sent him back down to developmental after he was seemingly getting a fair amount of weekly airtime on SmackDown. So is that controversial to say that the guy may not be the best wrestler? I mean, I'm not familiar with the guy's trade, but I mean, after tonight, I can tell you that he's not, Daniel Bryan.
Well, apparently this was controversial because I got reamed out by it for the post that I got tagged in. So I guess my opinion that Johnny Curtis is not the world's greatest wrestler was actually more controversial than I thought. But the panel here is reassuring me that I was on the right path by saying that. So I feel a little better now. But I want to know what Jeff thought of this match, too.
There were a lot of birds at the entrance. And then I got to see the swan. And then she just split in the ring. And that was all golden. But the match itself, Johnny Curtis isn't a bad wrestler. I mean, he's not a Daniel Bryan. He's not a Claudio Castagnoli. He's not going to go out there and give you a 10-star match and be a 5-star ring general. No, that's not going to be Johnny Curtis. But as far as Johnny Curtis goes, he takes what they give him and he makes it work. On NXT, he was this creepy kind of like pedophile type dude, and it worked. It got over the crowd. They thought he was creepy. They hated him. No, this match wasn't the most technical match. He did a lot of posing, but all these past few weeks, that's what he's been doing. He's been sitting there posing, and it works. It wasn't the best match. I mean, okay, it wasn't the best match, but it served the purpose. Johnny Curtis got his first win. Everyone had been complaining about, he doesn't wrestle. He just comes out there because people can't say his name right. So he just walks off and leaves. He wrestled a match. It wasn't the greatest match, but he got his first win under his belt. And it doesn't hurt Chris Jericho because Chris Jericho is so established that losing to a virtual rookie on the card, it doesn't hurt him. I mean, people put people over all the time, and Chris Jericho's about to leave again. So does it really matter to him? No. And he's always willing to work with people and put them over. And Johnny Curtis got his win. Johnny Curtis moves on to the next thing.
I'm going to use it works in my everyday life. It just works. It works. I love that.
I have to read a comment from our chat room before I go to Nikolai. Ace has booked a match for WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. The wrestling robot Johnny Curtis versus Pimpbot 5000 with Conan O'Brien in Pimpbot's corner. I like that idea. Nick, what did you think of this?
Well, I'm going to agree with Kev and Rowdy Rob in the chat room that it should have been on the pre-show, switch it up with the Intercontinental title, but also I'm going to agree with Matador that you really can't put Jericho on the pre-show. As a match itself, it was okay. I would have rather it be a little bit shorter. The fans that were chanting "You can't wrestle" to Fandango week in and week out on Raw and SmackDown, he really didn't disprove anybody because all we saw was punch, kick, stomp, chin hold, pose, and a top rope leg drop. I was really disappointed in the way that this match went about. Jericho tried his damnedest to make it look good, but the end of it was really clunky. I really can't say whose fault it was anywhere, but it was just did not flow smoothly, and everybody was out of place.
Yeah, it was just a meh overall. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't good. It was just one of those matches where it's like, let's get this over with and move on to the next thing. But before we move on to the next thing, Kev, you said in our Skype chat that you wanted to address a comment from Chris.
Yeah, one of the questions that was asked all through the match that Chris just brought up was, why is Fandango writing Kevin on his wrist tape? And it turns out it's not anything to do with me. Apparently, after doing a little bit of research, it has to do with a personal friend of Johnny Curtis's who recently passed away.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that was his tribute to a deceased friend. We can't hate on him for that. We can hate on him for not having a fantastic match, but good on him for showing that respect to a friend.
And I think Chris obviously was joking because obviously no one would be a fan of the show because of you, Kev. Let's be serious.
Oh, well, you know,
Alex, whatever your middle name is, I will use my mom voice and point my finger at you. You be nice to my co-host.
You should have said, Alexander P. Goff, you behave.
They know who they tune in for.
All right, children. Let's just move on. We do have a world heavyweight Oh, well, I guess I can't skip over Diddy. Or can I? I took a piss break. I don't know about anybody else.
Skip it.
Yeah.
Bathroom break.
Skip
it was
it.
pleasantly short. I'll say that.
You know, I'm going to be the dissenter here. I actually enjoyed the performance.
It didn't suck. I'll say that it didn't suck, but...
Yeah, it didn't suck. It was no Kid Rock. Thank God.
Oh, thank God.
That went forever.
And I think I think this actually went better than P. Diddy's last appearance on WWE.
Yeah, his last appearance was last year when he introduced MGK.
Well, no, he did a was it last? Well, I don't know. Was it last year that he did Tribute to the Troops?
I think that was 2 years ago that he did Tribute to the Troops.
Yeah, Tribute.
And it went nowhere.
The Tribute to the Troops performance, that was awful. He didn't need to show up for that. You know, just send Skylar Gray. That would have been fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've talked about this an awful lot for something that we're skipping.
I told Nick to call Suge Knight and tell him to make Diddy get lost in traffic.
Look.
Nick
I let that call slide because Skylar Gray was going to be there.
Look, she could have just showed up. It ain't like she was going to ride with Diddy. See, you over there messing up, and we all had to suffer.
Well, no, because everybody got a piss break out of it.
Yes.
Whatever.
And as Matador points out in our chat room, it was way better than the drunken Motorhead debacle. I'll give him that. Y'all don't remember that?
Next segment.
I just remember Lemmy not being able to keep up with his band and being like 5 bars behind trying to sing the vocals. It was pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Okay, so I'm not the only one then. Moving on, Jack Swagger challenging Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship with Zeb Coulter in his corner and Ricardo Rodriguez in the corner of the champ. So, I thought this was okay. It was better than Chris Jericho and Fandango, obviously because you had 2 people who could work in the match instead of just one. But other than that, I just wasn't left feeling like, wow, this is one that I'm going to tell my kids about someday. It just didn't come off as anything special. It felt like slightly better than a SmackDown match between the two. So, speaking of SmackDown, Nick, I'm going to start with you.
How awkward is it that we had a jobber entrance on pay-per-view? Not just a pay-per-view, but WrestleMania. I don't remember seeing Jack Swagger come out at all. And this was basically a SmackDown match. I really didn't pay much attention to it up until the ending. I was maybe just slightly, a little bit, possibly, maybe interested in this match. And I said this before on SmackDown Rundown a couple of weeks ago, when Alberto Del Rio had a match against Dolph Ziggler, and my fears had come true that match was a lot better than this one with Swagger. This one was just meh.
Yes, meh. That's a good word for it. I used that during Fandango and Jericho. This was slightly less meh, but it was still meh. Jeff, what do you think?
It felt like they were just going through the paces of practicing the match.
Yes.
It didn't do anything. Like, besides the counters of the submission holds at that one point where Swagger started with the ankle lock, and then Del Rio countered that, and then he countered it back, and then he countered it back. That was the only interesting part. And then it was over, and then Jack Swagger left, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that part I did like with the reversals of their finishing submission moves.
You know, Kev, I'm sure this was unintentional in your recap, but I am a little bit amused that when you described the finish and the official decision, you wrote Jack Sagger, because this match did sag, so that was perhaps an appropriate mistake on your part.
I just noticed it too. No, it was not intentional. It was a typo.
All right, but what do you say about the match other than that?
I thought it was an okay match. I'm not going to say it's meh. It was a okay WrestleMania match. Not the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. I've seen worse matches on WrestleMania. I thought it belonged on the show. Both these guys are really strong, competent, technical wrestlers, and I'm disappointed that the majority of this match was just each other trying to reverse each other's finishing moves. So I thought that brought down the match a lot. The ending was quirky. I can't think of another way to really describe it. That whole segment of everything, just how it played out and how quickly it came. Yeah, quirky pretty much sums it up.
I think another thing that dragged this match down for me too was that I was constantly waiting to see when Zeb Coulter and Ricardo were going to get into it, because he's out there on his crutches from being put in the Patriot Act, and we knew that Zeb Coulter was going to try to cheat to help Jack Swagger win at some point. So it almost took away from the actual wrestling of the match, just knowing that these two were going to get into it sooner or later. Chris, do you agree?
I do agree. I was really waiting for them to get into it, especially after Zeb's rant before the match, because God knows we can't have a match without him running his goddamn mouth and showing his racist ass to everybody in the goddamn world who's watching in, 30 whatever freaking countries. He went off on people who speak Spanish, Italian, Greek, and Yiddish, and somebody in the chat room said, well, yeah, those Greek terrorists, we've got to watch out for them, don't you know?
We have to watch out for the Yiddish.
Oi, Gewalt, you never know what they're going to do. I mean, they'll tell you to gay kakanafinyam. And, we can't have that. These kind of things are unacceptable. For those of you who don't speak Yiddish, that was, go shit in your shoe. I didn't care about this match. I didn't enjoy this match. I was glad that Jack Swagger did not win. I was surprised that we did not have the Money in the Bank cash-in. I think a lot of us were surprised by that. We were all expecting Dolph Ziggler to come running in with the briefcase and the ref and go, hey, I'm going to cash this in. But we got nothing. I mean, this felt like the culmination of nothing.
Yeah.
I want Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter. I just want them to go away. I want this angle to go away. I'm done.
I want to jump in real quick and just say, I'm glad that this match is over, because I hope it does mean that this angle is now over. I want my All-American Jack Swagger back. I mean, goddammit, if I have to deal with him chasing, mascot eagle tail again, fine. I will take that over the shit that they've got going on right now. I mean, the promo that they did at the very beginning, now that Chris brings it up, I was just sitting here face palming like, okay, this is too much. I can't defend this anymore. I can't take this anymore. Let's just get this over with.
It almost seems like WWE had that attitude too. Like, when they started this angle, they thought it was going to be really hot and everybody was going to get behind it, and it just petered out on television, and then it just petered out on WrestleMania. They just had a let's get this over with moment, and usually I will complain about World Heavyweight title matches not being closer to the top of the card, but Alex, this one seemed like it was in exactly the right place for what it was.
But can you really blame the creative team and Vince McMahon for rolling this type of angle out? And first of all, what it shows is that Vince McMahon is the type of conservative that doesn't hate the minorities. He just wants lower taxes for rich people. I think that show through and through the entirety of this angle. But no, I mean, with the immigration debate currently going on in America, seemingly with immigration reform right around the corner, and also with the fact that Cain Velasquez in December just did a big pay-per-view number, a Mexican-American, seemingly the time was right for this type of storyline. I don't think it ever connected. And if there was a hypothetical court case, I think I would use this as Exhibit A of why we should consolidate the world titles and have one world champion. Because this match didn't feel of a match of any kind of size. It was just a match to fill out the show and an angle that didn't get over, in my opinion. And I thought I could have left or take it. It was okay.
Yeah, and I think this... Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Like Nick said, it felt like a typical Friday Night SmackDown match. And it was there, it closed the show, and then you moved on with the rest of your life. The promo at the start of the match wasn't needed. I would have much rather just seen Jack and Zeb Coulter ride down in their golf cart that we got a really random shot of before they cut the promo. I don't know. Like, with this, they could have been a whole lot more technical, like Kev said, because they're both competent technical wrestlers. This match should have been a whole lot more technical, but I think the one thing that everyone, like you guys kept saying, it was more about what's Zeb and Ricardo going to do as opposed to what Jack Swagger and Alberto Del Rio are going to do in that ring to make you sit there and go, hey, did you guys see that World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania? It was one of those things that you just watch and you're like, okay.
My biggest issue was this match was all about the storyline and hardly about the championship. And that's where it got lost for me.
Right.
Well, one match that was definitely all about the storyline because there was no championship, Undertaker versus CM Punk. And there was a lot of concern going into this that the build was either A, not as hot as you would want to be for an Undertaker match going into Mania, or B, that they overplayed their hand with the offensiveness of Paul Bearer passing away and then being used in the angle. But honestly, this to me will go down as the match that I will probably talk about in years to come when I remember WrestleMania 29. I felt like Punk hit all the right notes here with his mocking the Undertaker's old school walk, with his putting his eyes rolled up into his head and sticking his tongue out. The antics of CM Punk here will be memorable to me for years to come. Alex, I want to start with you on this.
And thank God you started with me, because I almost feel like, and maybe I'm wrong for assuming this, but it's like you're writing off all the sins that the company's done these past few months during this build-up. Listen, Undertaker doesn't need much of a build-up. The story is ingrained into his character. The fact is he's undefeated at WrestleMania. Who's the next guy that think they can do it? They had an excellent match, which I honestly didn't expect for the match to be this good. It was excellent. I feel terrible for both CM Punk and Undertaker, the fact that Spanish Announce Table didn't break. But, you can't tell the story of this match without pointing out the fact that the whole build-up to this match was disgusting, and it was very uncreative as well. The fact that seemingly they had no story going into this match, and then the incident, Paul Bearer dying, and then, now we have a storyline, and I don't think that build added one bite to the show. So, excellent match. Excellent match. I didn't expect it because of Undertaker's age and his movement. I mean, he's looked terrible for years. And Punk, I'm not the biggest Punk fan in the world, but I thought this match was excellent.
Yes, I do agree that in every way possible, it exceeded what we could have expected out of it, both for Undertaker's age and mobility and for what went into leading to it. But as you said, Undertaker's story is ingrained. We didn't even need, Paul Bearer dying, it was just timing and irresistible of WWE because that's what they do. But at the same time, it could have been done without it, and it still would have been a match this good. So, Chris,
one more thing. I just want to the build to this match, and I haven't talked about this on the Angry Marks podcast. That the build to this match was disgusting. And then what was even more disgusting is all the people coming out of the woodwork, the Jim Rosses and the Bret Harts, to come in to justify the disgusting angle. Guys, the checks will still cash on Monday. You guys don't have to come running to the company's defense. This is what the company does anyway. It is disgusting, but I certainly don't need you guys to come out here and defend this crap. Disgusting angle to build this match up, but great match.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to go to Chris next, because I know for a fact from listening to Raw Reaction that she took personal exception to the way this match was built up. So if the match was good to her despite that, then I know it was a really good match.
This was the match of the night. This was the best match that I saw today. Admittedly, I am a huge Undertaker mark. I always have been. I have been for years. I was fine with the build of the match before Paul Bearer passed away. Once he passed away and Vince McMahon threw decency out the window and decided to exploit the man's death and decided that a storyline in which we dump out an urn full of his ashes all over a man who is like a son to him, that we think that's okay, that appalled me. That was absolutely appalling. Alex is right, it was absolutely disgusting.
Well, welcome to World Wrestling Entertainment. This is the same company that brought to you during an investor call when WWE Shop Zone saw an increase of sales after Eddie Guerrero's death, and they marketed it, which, I have no problem with the marketing of someone's death. All sports organizations do it. There is a nostalgia factor, and people are willing to pay you for that monetarily. People are willing to give you money to wear an Eddie Guerrero shirt. I own one. But then on the investor call to act like they had no idea why all of a sudden WWE Shop sales went up, that was egregious. And then, of course, the storylines after Eddie Guerrero's death. I mean, there's a pattern. Every time someone dies, they go over to the top to be disgusting. And then there's all these sympathizers that run out and say, oh, no, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to get you angry. It's working, Marks. No, you shut up. Your checks will still cash. You're just as disgusting, Bret Hart and Jim Ross. You're disgusting. It's money. Give me the money. Whatever. I'm sick of Jim Ross, and I'm sick of Bret Hart. They could have gone and not said anything about the angle. Jim Ross had to put it on Twitter and put a blog. Brother, that's what pro wrestling's about. No, it's not, Jim Ross. It was disgusting when Fritz Von Erich did it for his son. But you know what? That actually drew money. I can count heads. I can count ticket sales. I can count and see how that had a monetary gain to the show. Show me a stat of what CM Punk Undertaker did. Show it. Show me how many ticket sales it increased. You can't. It was disgusting. It didn't even need to be done. And Paul Bearer would have wanted it. How do I know? He's dead. Who cares? You should have left it alone. WWE always does. And the Jerry Lawler thing happened on Kevin and I's watch. Kevin and I were hosting the Raw Reaction at the time, and Kevin, I wasn't as hard on the angle because Jerry Lawler is still alive, and there's tape of it. And I assume if I'm lying, you can go back and listen to it. But I didn't think it needed to be done. I don't always agree with it, but you know what? I said you can vote with your dollars. You can vote with your views. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to buy the pay-per-view. But Jerry Lawler's still alive. If he wanted to do it, go have fun. But exploiting dead people for no monetary gain just to do it is stupid. And Jim Ross and Bret Hart running, oh, it's okay. Make sure you have the address right on the check. Disgusting. Have respect for yourself, guys.
Well,
yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree with Alex there. I mean, just because, even if William Moody would have said, oh yeah, that's great, go for it. Even if his children are saying, yeah, that's fine, go for it, knock yourselves out. That doesn't mean it's okay. That doesn't mean it's acceptable. That doesn't mean it's decent. There needs to be a line drawn in the sand where we say, you go this far and no farther.
And his children didn't say it was okay, and they can sit there and say the words were twisted all they want. I didn't mean it to come out. They said it was hard to watch. What was so hard to watch about it, moody children? Was it because it was hard to watch the fact your father was being exploited on television? Again, I hate to sound harsh, but your checks will cash too. You don't have to kowtow to this company. Your checks will cash. If you don't like something, say you don't like it.
Oh, Alex, you are returning to your Angry Marks roots here. You are vitriolic angry right now. I'm enjoying this thoroughly. And I believe the chat room has coined a term for this that I will credit to Rowdy Rob, and Seth Draken may have used it as well, Eddie-sploitation. That is what this is quintessentially, because they crossed that line to me when Randy Orton said that Eddie Guerrero was in hell. That to me was using a dead man and selling no tickets. And you made that point here as well.
Yeah, and that's when they lost all credibility to ever say that, oh, he would have wanted that. He would have wanted us to use this angle for monetary gain. I've never, like I said, the David Von Erich death, yeah, I can count heads, I can count ticket sales. But show me an example when WWE ever did this, that it ever increased sales. I mean, the tasteful Eddie Guerrero shirt did. It was a nice shirt. But the angle surrounding it, I mean, come on. Someone needs to stand up and say, this isn't appropriate. This is disgusting. If it has to be me here on this Angry Marks podcast and over my other podcasts, Online World of Wrestling, I'll do that because, I don't get paid by the company. I guess if you get paid by the company, you arbitrarily have to come out and defend every stupid thing they do, including being disgusting when someone dies. And I'm sorry, another rant, but it's like if they were ever respectful to legends, except for one time a year when they profit off of it, which is the Hall of Fame, then I would write it off and say, you know what, it is what it is. It's pro wrestling. But the fact is, if you're a legend, the only time you get to come on the show is if they want to embarrass you. It's like the NBA, when they have Bill Russell come out every year, it's to give out a trophy. It's not so LeBron could slam dunk in his face and rub his balls in his face. I mean, that's the equivalent to it. They don't have Larry Bird come out and they have Ray Allen or Kevin Garnett come push them down. I'm the new Celtic, baby. They don't do that. They're respectful to their legends. Major League Baseball, same thing. National Football League, same thing. Respectful to their legends. World Wrestling Entertainment treats their legends like jokes and old people, and they exploit them as well. It's an exploitative company. And no one ever, under contract calls them out for that. So I'm here to do it. WWE, you treat your legends like shit, and when someone dies, you don't have to be disgusting. You can show a video and let that be.
Okay, I have one question.
Jeff, can I go real quick before I jump to you?
Yeah.
I got to say something about what Alex just said, because he mentioned that nobody under contract ever challenges them. The one time that actually happened in recent memory was the Summer of Punk 2 years ago. CM Punk actually brought this up when he demanded apologies from Vince McMahon. He said, "You are the biggest hypocrite there has ever been. You have this anti-bullying campaign, and you bully all your legends, and you bully all of us, and you should apologize. I am here to speak for the people who can't demand an apology for you, and you should apologize to them." He was the one person under contract who ever actually challenged that. And I was so happy that he took the title and left and made his statement, and then they shit the bed 2 weeks later by bringing him back again. It was like you had the perfect chance for this one guy to be the spokesman for all of us who find these things disgusting, and then you just re-signed him 2 weeks later and dropped the angle.
You know what?
Boy.
I'm going to jump in on that real quick. Come on, that was a complete cop-out. I mean, it sounded refreshing and honest when Punk said it, but then when you watched everything played out, you just realize you got played once again, sucker.
I agree with Kevin. It was an angle.
He worked you. CM Punk worked you. Vince McMahon worked.
At the time, it was so... It rang true when he said it, because Punk has always been the kind of guy, even before he was in WWE, who said what he thought and how he felt and advocated pro wrestling and not sports entertainment. So it came across as real, even if it turned out to be a joke.
Well, I mean, honestly, a week after, once we started to see everything that was happening with that, it's like the manager of McDonald's bitching about how Big Macs are gross. Yeah, he may be bitching, but that ain't stopping him from selling it, is it?
Yeah, I suppose not.
But just to make my comments on Punk and Undertaker real quick, I know everybody's complaining about the Angle and Paul Bearer and all that, and I think my words and everybody else's words on that have pretty much been very well hashed out, so I'll just focus on the match. This was, I think, the best match on the card, to be quite honest. This was the best shape I've seen Undertaker in years. I really wasn't having a lot of expectations going into this match. Quite simply, I didn't want to see Undertaker back on another WrestleMania card. I thought he was going to be too frail, not in very good shape, or ready to do this at all. After seeing CM Punk go out and doing what he did last year at WrestleMania, I wasn't very impressed with that either. So I wasn't too hot for this angle to begin with. Then on top of that, they throw in the death of the Undertaker, and depending on which side you fall on, either it was not strong enough of a build for it, or it was too over the top and people just couldn't accept it, didn't like it. So I didn't have a lot of expectations, and especially after they ended last Monday Night Raw the way they did with CM Punk dumping the supposed ashes of Paul Bearer onto Undertaker, I thought, okay, maybe that was a bit too far. And I have real concerns about how well this match was going to go over. They stole this show. They completely blew it away. This may be one of the best Undertaker matches ever. It's certainly going to be one of the best CM Punk matches ever. They both just did a great job at this, and this should be a match that both look back on fondly in their twilight years and say, wow, yeah, we did that.
But Jeff, I apologize. I know you wanted to get in here, so please go ahead.
I know everyone's upset about how the angle came about after William Moody passed, but in all honesty, can anyone sit here and say that it didn't add that little bit of emotion to this match that was not there before? And in all honesty, say that when it was announced that it was CM Punk versus The Undertaker, that you were 100% sold on this match and said that this is going to be the greatest match at WrestleMania this year.
Those are two different points. The first point is, no, I can honestly say it added nothing to the match that any storyline would have, because this was the only storyline they rolled out, was this fact that Paul Bearer had died. And secondly, yeah, when they announced the match, of course, yeah, I thought it was going to be probably the best match on the show. But no, the Paul Bearer angle added nothing to the match at all for me. I can honestly say that.
For me, I didn't care about the match when it was announced that it was CM Punk versus The Undertaker. I was like, okay, Undertaker's going to win again, and we'll be done with it. When Paul Bearer passed, I kind of was like, okay, how are they going to approach this? And then they had the whole CM Punk thing, and I was fine with it. I was 100% fine with everything that they did, because I knew if The Undertaker wasn't cool with it, if William Moody's family was not cool with this angle would not have happened. Yes, his kids went on record and said that it was tough to watch. Of course it's tough to watch. You just lost your father and they're portraying him in a certain way. But along the way, they went to you and they asked you, is this okay? And you said, yeah.
It's not true. Eddie Guerrero angle, Bret Hart being when Bret Hart left the company, a lot of guys were openly disgusted with the angle, but came back. I mean, there's been precedent set where guys will do things they're openly against because there is no other game in town, and WWE pays very well. So I don't agree with your point that these guys, it wouldn't have happened. No, because the Eddie Guerrero thing, Undertaker was involved in that, and that was disgusting. And no, I don't agree with that.
Well, since everybody wants to start interrupting each other, and I can't get a word in edgewise, I might as well start doing the same damn thing right now because it's getting late and I'm getting tired. So my thoughts on the CM Punk versus Undertaker match was a really good match. It was one of, if not the best match of the night. For the build-up, I was at first not okay with it, but then when the weeks passed, I was okay. I was fine up until the quote-unquote dumping of the ashes. I was not okay with. That was just completely wrong. It was unnecessary. The stealing of the urn was fine because it added personal problems for The Undertaker, made him angry, led us to believe that he could probably get himself disqualified. So it played well into the story being told. I could have done without the last bit of Raw because the last Raw before WrestleMania was just completely awful all around. So other than that, the match at WrestleMania between CM Punk versus Undertaker, I was happy with it. I did not need Undertaker to wrestle again because I was fine with him being 20-0, perfect number. I was happy that he did not do the suicide dive. Let me just say that.
Exactly.
I was holding my
forward to it.
I was holding my breath
it.
when he was. I was holding my breath when he was running the ropes and stopped when Paul Heyman was there. So I was perfectly fine with the match. I loved the false finishes, the kickouts everywhere, the tombstone finally ending it. I was happy with the match. 21-0 Undertaker. Please don't come back next year. We don't need you to be hurt again. And yes, you put on a great match, but you don't need to keep doing this.
Exactly.
We got to see the Cena match. We haven't seen the Cena match yet. That's the only match I want to see if Undertaker left.
And I don't give a damn about that match. I want Undertaker to be done. Undertaker is the reason why I started watching wrestling from jump. I say that all the time. Undertaker is the reason why I started watching wrestling. At 20-0, when it was the end of an era, he should have went home to the rocking chair that he had in hell, being the king of hell or whatever the hell he wants to call himself as a dead man. He should have been done. Triple H, he should have kept his old ass at home, running shit behind the scene with Stephanie and his kids and Vince and whoever the hell else is helping him run shit back there.
You just want him and Michelle McCool to make babies.
No, I don't. They have one kid. Michelle is good. I like The Undertaker, but this match exceeded the expectations that I had for it because, in all honesty, I didn't give a damn about it going into it. Besides the whole Paul Bearer thing and all the stuff that came along with that, I still was like, okay, Undertaker's going to get his big comeuppance at WrestleMania, get the win, and everyone's going to go home happy. Because for some people, the way that CM Punk did this angle and the whole dumping the ashes and mocking the Undertaker and stealing the urn, which people have done tons of times. People always steal the damn urn. The only thing that was different from that time, was one, Paul Bearer was dead. Two, it didn't do that whole taking the Undertaker's power thing that they had the whole mystique back in the early 90s. All in all, it was fine. We're done. We won't see the Undertaker until next year, probably. CM Punk will go on to do whatever the hell CM Punk does, talk for 20 minutes in the ring, walking around a tree or doing whatever the hell he wants to do, and Paul Heyman's going to sit there and talk to. And
Probably
we'll move on with our lives. Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, with respect to Nick and the hour getting late and him getting tired, I think we just need to move on from this one. We've said all there is to say about Punk and Undertaker, so we've got to move on to Triple H and Brock Lesnar. And Nick, I'm going to let you start on this one.
I think this match was good. It just went a little too long, in my opinion. It was, I really can't decide for my personal self, for my belief, if it was better than the SummerSlam match, but, I'm okay with Triple H winning. I was happy to see Shawn Michaels super kick Paul Heyman. I really can't add anything else to this match. It was fine. It was good, but I didn't need Triple H back in the ring.
All right. Jeff, you go ahead next.
The match was good. I was a little confused over the fact that Brock lost. I understand that it was him Triple H getting his revenge over the McMahons and HBK and all that stuff. But it would have made more sense if Brock Lesnar is supposed to be under this new contract for like the next year and a half or whatever. He went over and then went on a monster tear whenever he decided to show his no neck having self. And Triple H retired, because we all know if Triple H retired, he would, like a year from now, he would decide to get back in the ring and wrestle. So yeah, I didn't care about the match overall.
I felt like the match turned out in a way that it didn't bother me that Triple H won, because the story leading up to that was acceptable. It didn't blow me away or anything, but I did enjoy the physicality of it. The steel steps in particular, I liked the way that Brock Lesnar threw them into the ring and then teased using them and then picked them up and then set them down. There was something about the tenseness of it that it just made for an interesting build to it. And when it came up and when he was in the arm bar and then slammed Triple H into those steps, I had been anticipating something happening with it. So I really enjoyed that part of it. And it was an acceptable match overall. Not anything that it's going to years from now go down as a WrestleMania classic, but it was okay. Chris, what do you think?
I'm probably going to get some heat for this one. Back after the last time these two guys wrestled, when Triple H was, did his big emotional speech about how he doesn't know if he has another match in him and he doesn't know if he's done or not. I got really into that, and I was sitting here with tears rolling down my face going, okay, this is the end of an era. This is done now. We can move on. So then when it started up again, I got pissed because I already had my big emotional, okay, Triple H is done wrestling. We have to say goodbye. Not like I've ever met the guy or anything like that, but you get emotionally attached to these people, as a fan. So I was kind of pissed about this match from the get-go. It was a match. They wrestled. It was fine, I guess. Triple H winning kind of confused me because, I was expecting Brock Lesnar to win. They just signed him to this year-long contract, and now what the hell are they going to do with him? I don't know where this is going from here. So, it was okay, I guess.
Yeah, and you do raise a good point. It's like, really, where do they go with Hunter from here? It's not even whether or not you have to give Hunter the Barbarian back his win, because we all know that is his tradition, that nobody ever gets one over on him and him not get it back. It's more like, what does he do now? So he did get his win back, but he's still mostly retired. He's still a corporate guy. He's still not going to be on tour with Raw, at least not in front of the camera, maybe behind it. So it's just like, okay, nothing wrong with the match, but what's the point future here? What do they have Lesnar get some heat back on him on Raw? Kev, you can address that and the match itself.
Well, overall, I didn't think this match needed to be on the card. I didn't think it was going to settle or prove anything. I really had no interest in it at all. And the end of the match and everything that happened during the match didn't sway me from that opinion. But since the match was on the card, it was a pretty damn good match. I'm not going to complain about it. It was a slobber knocker match, and both guys just showed the pure raw tenacity that was in their hearts. They just were not going to quit until they physically just could not go anymore. I love that kind of wrestling. It was really physical. It was raw emotion. I don't see how any wrestling fan can ever hate that. So even though I personally didn't think that this personal feud needed to be a part of WrestleMania, I think in a way it still filled a part of this card, and it needed to. So I'm glad that they did what they did. With that said, I hope this was Triple H's last match until he actually has his retirement match. I don't want to see him at WrestleMania next year, even if it is his retirement match. Go hold your retirement match on Raw or some other pay-per-view. Don't take up WrestleMania with that. There's much more important shit that's going on in life to be doing that. We don't need to see any more Triple H. Hopefully, they will find something else to do with Brock Lesnar. Give him a month to cool off or so. Find a new feud for him. You've got 2 years now to be doing stuff with him. Use him. He's a big physical guy. I think he's matured enough as an individual. I think he can contribute to WWE a lot better and in a lot more ways than he did with his first run in the company. He just so much disgusted me and insulted me personally as a wrestling fan that I swore up and down I never wanted to see him again. And when he started pulling that same shit in UFC, I said, I have no more interest in him. But he's had some personal things that have happened to him in his life. He's had quite a bit of change in attitude and everything, and I saw it in this match. He was a really, really solid, strong worker. His head was completely in the game here. I'm actually looking forward to more Brock Lesnar in WWE now, so I hope WWE can actually really use him to his full potential.
Well, Alex, I know you got to be chomping at the bit to get into this now with all the references to MMA that Kev just threw in there, but I got an oddball question for you to go along with your thoughts on the match. What did you think of the entrance, and what the hell was on Triple H's chest?
I don't know. What was that? I couldn't figure it out. Speaking of entrances, Chris, did you have an explanation?
No, from what I read, It was some of the powder that was mixed in with the fog to make it show up better in the lighting just kind of stuck to all of Triple H's sweat, and because of the type of lighting they were used, it just kind of made it glow.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea what that was. First of all, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman are best two characters in World Wrestling Entertainment right now. I get this giddy almost feeling when Brock walks out, almost like a 5-year-old in Demolition was walking out. I mean, Brock Lesnar feels like the realest thing on the show. The match was really, really good, but Chris brings up an excellent point that I've been watching pro wrestling my entire life, and I'm not surprised by Triple H. I expect that from Triple H. I expected the game to go over because that's how you play the game, baby. You beat Triple H, but you can't stop him because he'll just beat you later. He's the modern version of Hulk Hogan, except for he has booking power, so he will get his win back. But it's kind of absurd that he kind of did get his win back, and he could have, walked away, considering that he does have massive influence in the company, and considering we've seen some of the influence he has in the company, a lot for the better, especially with these developmental hirings and such. But it was a good match. But interesting that Brock didn't win going forward, because seemingly Brock is going to be, it's speculated. It's been, I don't want to say reported because that's not accurate, but it's been speculated, closely speculated by some at the Wrestling Observer that Brock and Rock are going to be in a big match next year. I don't know where Triple H falls into the picture going forward. I guess we'll have to see if he is, or this was just, the fact the game has to get his win back, which that wouldn't surprise me because that's the way the game's been his entire career.
Yeah, the game played the game that we all know he plays so well. And if they're going to do anything with Rock and Brock, maybe it'll be at Extreme Rules, because they are, in theory, both making appearances in 6 weeks in St. Louis. They've both been advertised. So they could have separate matches, and then they could just run into each other and have words. It wouldn't take much. They could sow the seeds and give us 11 months to think about it. But in the meantime...
One second, Stevie. Are you going to that show?
I'm undecided.
That's why Stevie wants the Brock Rock, and also I imagine he wants Bruno to wrestle at that show too. Stevie has a vested interest he wasn't willing to let go of there.
I don't want Bruno to wrestle. Speaking of people I'm glad that are retired and staying retired, Bruno Sammartino does not need to wrestle at his age. That would be worse than watching Hulk Hogan wrestle at his age, which I don't need to see either. So, let's get to the main event. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson versus John, this guy gets booed, Cena. And Alex, I'll start with you.
The match, it was better than last year, but I mean, they definitely didn't set a high standard last year. I thought this match was just, it was no good for WrestleMania main event. Thumbs down.
It was better than last year, but I didn't think last year was all that terrible. And this year, there were some flashes of charisma that weren't apparent in the last one that I really enjoyed. Like, for example, when Cena just got tired of being crapped on by The Rock and the crowd the whole time and decided, okay, I just knocked Rock down, now I'm going to get one on all of you. And he took off his wristband and threw it out in the crowd like The Rock does when he does people's elbow, and he deliberately, slow motion, stepped his way through it, and The Rock popped up in the middle of it, and Cena grabbed the ropes and hung on like, see, I knew this would happen. I enjoyed that. That was, for me, a highlight.
That was a great spot. It was a great spot.
Yeah. Kev, what did you think of this?
I thought it was an okay match. I'm not going to crow on it too much, though. It just seems like, once again, third, maybe fourth year in a row now, the WrestleMania main event was kind of a letdown. About half the match, I thought it was a good match. I liked the psychology on it. Where this really started to turn south on me was when everybody involved in the match, I don't know why I just said everybody involved in the match. There's only two people involved in this match. When Rock and Cena decided that the whole purpose of the second half of this match was just going to be see who could reverse whose finisher the most times. Really fucking annoying. It took away from the match. I like the smart parts about it. Like, for example, Cena thinking about going for the 5-knuckle shuffle and then deciding not to do it, grabbing the ropes when he knew Rock wasn't going to be expecting it, or what the hell, I'm just going to give in to the fans and be cocky anyway, and even though I know I shouldn't do it, I'm going to imitate the people's elbow and fail at it anyway. Lots of great, smart parts on it, but like I said, second half of this match, it just all kind of fell apart. The end was okay. I liked what happened after the pin. The amount of respect that they showed each other once again in this match, just incredible. Cena respectfully leaving the ring so that The Rock could get all the attention was great. And then Rock going up the ramp and Cena waiting for him. Rock leaves the stage so Cena can get the adulation of the fans. That was just so incredibly classy. I can't think of a classier moment. The body language from The Rock in the ring, it makes me wonder if this is actually going to be his last WrestleMania or last match ever. It certainly just kind of seemed that way, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see that in how that plays out in the future. But overall, it was an okay match. WrestleMania moment, yes. Should have been the main event. I don't think so. I'll be honest. I would have been happier if either Punk Undertaker or Triple H and Lesnar were the main event here. I'm kind of sad, really, that the last several WrestleManias, the main event, in a way, has been disappointing. And I'm not upset that John Cena won. It wouldn't have mattered who won this match. The way the second half of this match played out just really distracted me and just didn't leave me on a great emotional high as you would expect WrestleMania to.
Yeah, two things about that before I move on to Chris. One is that I seem to have noticed a pattern in the last few years, and this is both from Manias I've gone to and ones I've watched at home, that when Undertaker is like third or fourth from the top, that's usually when he goes out there and has the best match of the pay-per-view and overshadows the main event. And the other thing that I'm noticing from the chat room is that Rowdy Rob and Rudy Poo, among other people, are saying that they're not upset that Cena won. It was just too obvious. Whereas I guess I fall into the camp of, if it's obvious, don't swerve it for the sake of the swerve. I was happy with Cena going over. Maybe it was slightly anticlimactic, but I felt like this needed to happen. They gave it everything they had. They did enough kicking out of reversals. It was time for it to go home, and it didn't go too long. But Chris, how about you?
I've got to disagree with you some there. I'm fine with Cena winning. I think that's the appropriate thing to have happen because The Rock has other priorities now. I think wrestling's probably like 14th or 15th on his list. And the top 13 are going to be acting because that's his passion now. He still loves the WWE, don't get me wrong, but that's not his priority. And I think that with his thanking the fans and telling the fans I love you, and his body language in the ring, and, the way he greeted his family after the match was over, I think, I'm going to agree with Kev. I think he might be done. The way the match went, I was absolutely not impressed. This felt like, I'm going to do my finishing move now. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. No, wait. I'm going to do my finishing move now. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. And that was like 15 minutes of it. I'm sitting there going, really? Seriously? This is what you're doing? That was... It was ludicrous. It was asinine. These guys can actually wrestle. And what they were giving us was a cartoon caricature of wrestling. I expected a lot more from this final match. I absolutely agree with Kev on the classiness afterwards. I was very impressed by that. First off, John Cena standing there with the belt in his hands, looking at The Rock and saying, thank you. Thank you. I couldn't lip read any more than that, but I got thank you, thank you. The respect that these two guys have shown for each other, I think has been absolutely fantastic. And I think I hope, will set a standard for some of the younger up-and-coming guys. This is what athleticism is supposed to be about. This is what sportsmanship is supposed to be about. It's not about, dumping some dead guy's ashes in effigy. It's not about running down out of the stands and saying, oh, you don't meet our standards of justice, so we're going to kick your ass, even though there's only one of you and there's three of us. It's not about turning your back on two guys that you've partnered with to stand against an injustice that you perceive. It's about the kind of respect and the kind of dignity that The Rock and John Cena showed tonight. So that I was impressed with.
On the note of dignity and respect, I realize that most people on this call right now and in our chat room probably did not watch the Dragon Gate USA pay-per-view last night. Maybe, Alex, I don't know. You can tell me if you did. But it was sort of the opposite of the end of that pay-per-view where Johnny Gargano blatantly cheated to win the match by choking out Shingo. And this was a man that people had huge respect for in attendance and watching because he is a legend of Dragon Gate and had been a star for DGUSA at the very inception, but hadn't been back for 2 years. And Shingo was doing everything in his power to win the Freedom Gate title. And then it just turned into a debacle where Johnny Gargano said, screw it, I can't finish this guy, I'm going to do what I have to, and then acted like the insincere babyface afterwards, pretending he didn't cheat, thanking all the fans for their support, even though they were clearly booing the crap out of him. And I understand, in that case, you're getting heat, and you're getting people to talk about Dragon Gate USA, which is what I'm doing right now. So I did appreciate the pushing buttons part of it, but I just had to point out that before I go to Nick for his thoughts, that it was pretty much two polar opposites. It was a pay-per-view with insincere respect versus a pay-per-view with genuine respect.
I didn't watch Dragon Gate, Stevie, but I did read your recap, so I know what you're referring to. In regards to The Rock vs. Cena, I was not impressed. I actually plan to go back and watch this match because watching it live, I just was not interested. Maybe it's because they just didn't seem interested in the first place. They looked like they were really lagging in the match. They looked very lethargic and uncaring at all. I don't know if that's how they really felt. I can't tell. I wasn't there. I'm not them. But it's just from their body language. They didn't really bring any excitement, and the ending of the rock bottom gets countered, the attitude adjustment gets countered, the rock bottom gets countered, the attitude adjustment gets countered, rock bottom hits, kick out, attitude adjustment hits, kick out. I like the false finish, but at certain points it was just a merry-go-round, and I was starting to get dizzy, and whatever. I'm okay with the match. It wasn't good. The general consensus in the Angry Marks chat room is that it was not good, and some, people are saying that their friends fell asleep and it was boring, but it definitely was not main event quality. John Cena won. I'm okay with it. I don't hate Cena. I fully expected him to be WWE champion once again. I mean, it's been well over a year. I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it. Like I said, I plan to go watch it again. I'm just happy that it's over, and I like the respect at the end of the match.
Quick note before I go to Jeff. I have seen Cena in several main events at WrestleMania, and in those matches, they've been anywhere from great to good to, oh my god, what were they thinking? As far as that goes, the best one I've ever seen was John Cena and Shawn Michaels. That one is the top of the list. And Triple H John Cena, that was pretty damn good. Now, The Miz John Cena, that was just bloody awful. The reason I'm saying this before I go to Jeff is because, based on what Nick just said, I can still rank this match above The Miz and John Cena as a main event of a WrestleMania, but I agree with his point as well that it didn't seem like it was as special as it could have been. So what do you say, Jeff?
It should have been better than what it was. It was another one of those matches on the card that kind of felt like they were just going through the paces and like, okay, well, this is the spot we have to do now. We have to do this spot, this spot, this spot. A couple other things. Okay, we'll do this now. And then finish. And yeah, I mean, the match wasn't horrible. It wasn't spectacular either. It was just kind of there. Like, I felt like it should have been Brock Lesnar versus Triple H, then the WWE Championship, then Undertaker versus CM Punk to capulate the entire thing. I mean, the show of respect at the end of the show and everything that happened with that, and then like The Rock's body language. Is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? What's his next move going to be after he goes films Hercules? Is he getting a rematch for the WWE Championship at Extreme Rules? That's another thing on the table, because every champion gets their rematch. Is he going to compete again at Extreme Rules, and then he loses that match, and then he goes on to do his 5 million other things that he has to do, and then come back and at SummerSlam and get involved in the whole thing again? There's so many variables coming out of this match that I'm more interested in than the actual match itself. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with John Cena next. Who's his next feud going to be? Is it going to be CM Punk again? Is he going to have to focus on The Rock for another 3 weeks? What's going to happen with that? Is The Rock just going to be like, okay, I've retired and we don't see him again? That's what I'm more interested than this overall match, which was just there.
All right.
One thing, just so we can get dissenting view in there, I don't subscribe to the best match has to main event. I think Rock and Cena no doubt drew the money to this show, so I think they should have main evented. I don't agree with the best match should always main event.
Yeah, I mean, that is also true that the best match doesn't always have to main event, because typically you see on a lot of cards where the best match happens in the middle of the show and doesn't happen at the end of the show, and sometimes the best match happens at the end of the show. I'm just saying that there could have been so much more to this match, but it felt like they were strapped for time, or they were like, okay, we're going to throw out a whole bunch of other stuff and we'll just put this together last minute, and this is what we'll give the people. And it's not one of those matches where I'm going to sit there like 5 years from now and go, hey, do you remember that match?
Yeah, it wasn't that great. It was good for the main event. I mean, it's not going to be the greatest match of the entire pay-per-view, but it was okay. Like I said, it didn't really bring anything new to the table, and it was fine for what it was. Cena wins as expected. A lot of people are going to hate it, but you know what? Get over it. You knew this was going to happen.
Exactly. Everyone knew that it was going to happen at one point or other, so the whole... if Cena wins, we riot, and all that other crap, just let that shit go.
Yeah, I'm sick of it.
It's 20 goddamn 13. He's the face of a goddamn company. If they want to put the belt on him, they're going to put the belt on him. If they want to take it off of him, they're going to take it off of him. One way or other, you're going to have to see John Cena. So just accept it.